when I came to Roc-A-Fella, I was at the point where I'm like, I'm coming into a scenario to where this is already laid out. This is done. These niggas is up. For me to even be a part of this is a big move for Dame even bringing me in. I'm very happy. So I always was like, and I'm exaggerating when I say this, but I'm like almost a slave. Like, can I hold the door for you? Yo, y'all niggas want something from the store? I'm on the store. Y'all niggas,
nah, you was definitely grind mode when you first came around, for sure. I never take that away.
Right.
When Camron sat down and spoke about what it really felt like stepping into the Roc-A-Fella empire, he didn't sugarcoat a thing. He said straight up, nobody handed him a guide, not Dame, not Jay, nobody. He walked into that label thinking he'd be part of a smooth-running dynasty. But instead, he found himself knee-deep in label politics and quiet tension. On Talk with Flea, Cam broke it all down in detail. He said when he first joined Roc-A-Fella, he wasn't there trying to challenge anyone's spot or act bigger than the brand. Nah, he was the type to show pure respect, holding the door, running errands, doing whatever it took to earn his place. That's how much he admired what Dame Dash and Jay-Z had built. It was legacy-level stuff, and Cam wanted to be part of it.
And then, like I said, I just didn't know Jay's personality. And it was a time, I'll give you an example, right? I had K Slay in the studio.
Yeah, you told me that, yeah.
No, I didn't know if I remember told you. And Jay was like, yo, be careful who you bringing in here, because what if I would have slapped the shit out the And I'm like, I didn't know. This is a word like, of my mother.
Yo.
But the real turning point came when he talked about not knowing Jay-Z's personality. Cam said Jay pulled him aside one day at Baseline Studios, right after that massive Oh Boy wave hit, and told him everything was cool between them. Still, you could tell Cam didn't fully know where he stood in that circle yet. He was cautious, walking that fine line between confidence and respect, careful not to step on any invisible boundaries in a crew that already had its own rhythm. This whole Camron and Roc-A-Fella story shows just how cutthroat and layered the business side of hip-hop really is. You can have all the talent, all the bars, all the swagger, but if you don't understand the room you're stepping into, it'll feel like everyone else got the cheat code while you're stuck trying to guess the moves. That's the cold truth of it. When Cam spoke on how Dame never really warned him about Jay-Z's vibe or how things operated inside the label, that hit deep. But it wasn't shade, it was honesty.
Thing about Slay that I respected, like him and Jay had their differences, but Slay always fucked with me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Me and Pap
Absolutely.
did a mixtape together, introduced me to Pap when Pap first was coming up. Used to always let me come on to bring my artists up to freestyle.
Right.
So I always respected that about Slay. Like, he never threw me into the politics of what they had going on.
Right.
That's how the game works. Nobody holds your hand once you're in the building. You might get the shot, but no one's walking you through the playbook. Sometimes success ain't about who stamped you. It's about who taught you how to survive once the lights come on. Cam had to learn that on his own, but he flipped it like a pro. He built Dipset right under the Roc-A-Fella umbrella and dropped Come Home With Me, turning uncertainty into one of the label's loudest eras ever. That wasn't luck. That was vision, grind, and straight up business instincts. You can't fake that kind of hustle. Camron took all that wild energy inside the Roc-A-Fella building and flipped it into pure power, turning himself into a household name. What people often miss, though, is that back then, Roc-A-Fella wasn't just another rap label. It was a movement built on ownership. Jay, Dame, and Biggs had real equity, splitting control under Def Jam at a time when most artists were lucky to even own their masters.
Trying to just make sure that I'm good. There was even a point where, like I said, the reason we did the New York City record, I guess, you know, people was feeling the way Old Boy came out, it was doing good. And Jay pulled me Jay pulled me to the side and Baseline was like, yo, I don't know if it's tension, not tension.
That setup was revolutionary. It showed a whole generation that you could be both the talent and the boss. Cam watched that blueprint unfold right in front of him and soaked it all in. So when he says Dame Dash didn't warn him, it's not bitterness, it's realization. He had to learn the ropes the hard way, figuring out who he was without a middleman telling him every step to take. That's the kind of education you can't buy. It's earned through trial, error, and confidence. And honestly, that's the best lesson any artist could ever get. Because if someone's always telling you what to do, you never really learn how to move with your own instincts. Cam's growth came from that fire. He evolved from just an artist into a businessman who knew his worth. That's why there's no need to pick sides here. Jay-Z showed strategy, Dame Dash showed grind, and Camron showed independence. Together, those three created a masterclass in longevity and self-made success. Cam didn't leave Roc-A-Fella bitter. He left with the blueprint knowledge. You can see it in the way he built his own brand, pushed his own merch, and made moves on his time, not the industry's clock. Cam's departure from Roc-A-Fella wasn't some messy fallout. It was evolution in motion. By the time things started to shift inside the label, he had already figured out how to flip every lesson he learned there into his own playbook. The energy between Dame and Jay was getting tense. The empire was splitting in half, and everyone was choosing sides. But Cam stayed focused on the bigger picture. He wasn't chasing validation anymore. He was chasing legacy. See, Cam understood something a lot of artists still miss. Every room you walk into teaches you something, whether it's how to move, how not to move, or how to build your own lane when doors start closing. When Roc-A-Fella began crumbling, he didn't panic. He pivoted. He saw how corporate money mixed with street mentality could build empires, but also destroy them if pride got in the way. And through all that chaos, Cam kept his cool. He didn't get caught up in the drama or start throwing shots. He just built Dipset into a brand that stood toe-to-toe with the Roc itself. He made Pink cool, turned Harlem into a movement, and showed the whole game that independence could look luxurious. That's why even today, when people talk about the Roc-A-Fella story, Cam's name still comes up with respect. He proved that you could walk away from one of the biggest hip-hop empires ever and still shine brighter on your own terms. That's not just survival, that's dominance.
But I knew K-Slay had the drama hour where he's playing all the diss records. But it wasn't like he would play Nas records and not play Jay records. But I guess Jay was like, if you play Nas records,
don't play my shit.
Yeah, whatever. I didn't know that.
What's crazy is how Cam turned what could have been tension into timeless impact. While Roc-A-Fella was falling apart and egos were clashing, he kept stacking wins. Diplomatic immunity dropped, Dipset became a culture wave, and suddenly Harlem wasn't just on the map, it was the map. The fashion, the slang, the confidence, it all started spreading like wildfire, and Cam was at the center of it. But behind all that flash was something deeper. Cam was running his brand like a boss, owning his image, his sound, and his movement. He watched how Jay handled business deals and how Dame fought for artist control, then combined those lessons into his own empire.
What was it, the B-Sides 2 concert? My G, man. Like that was on for the city. That was big, man.
That was super dope.
That's what made Dipset different. It wasn't just music, it was identity. People weren't just fans, they were part of a lifestyle. Still, Cam never pretended like the Roc days didn't shape him. He said plenty of times that the experience taught him more than any contract or mentor ever could. It showed him how real power in this industry doesn't come from being signed. It comes from understanding what you're signing. That's game most artists don't learn until it's too late. And let's be real, Cam's vision outlasted a lot of his peers. While others were chasing trends, he was setting them. Even now, the Dipset brand still holds weight. People rock the colors, quote the bars, and carry that energy like it never left. That's legacy, not luck. He didn't just survive the Roc era, he graduated from it, leaving with knowledge, respect, and a blueprint that still inspires artists today. What's wild is how Cam's story still hits today, because it's not just about rap, it's about power moves. Fans still debate whether he got the respect he deserved inside Roc-A-Fella, but one thing's for sure, he turned every situation into strategy. Even when people tried to downplay his role, time ended up proving him right. See, Cam's journey shows how tricky the industry can be. You can be in the room with legends and still feel like you're standing alone. Not because you lack talent, but because politics run deep. Labels talk unity, but behind the scenes, there's competition, favoritism, and silence that speaks louder than words. And Cam, he saw through all of it. When he talks about his early Roc days, it's not bitterness, it's clarity. He realized you can't expect everyone to guide you. Sometimes you got to write your own playbook. That's what separates leaders from followers. While some artists folded under pressure, Cam used that same pressure to build a dynasty of his own. Dipset became proof that independence could still dominate charts and culture. And even now, the echoes of that Roc era still ripple through the game. The way artists handle ownership, branding, and team loyalty. It all traces back to that early 2000s energy that Cam helped define. He showed that being overlooked in one room doesn't mean you won't be the boss in the next one. That's real elevation. That's not failure, that's evolution. What Cam did was take every tough lesson, every awkward moment, and turn it into a blueprint for survival in an industry that eats people alive. His story is a reminder that talent alone isn't enough. You've got to understand the business, because once the lights fade and the hype cools down, what keeps you standing is ownership, knowledge, and hustle. You can't wait for someone to hand you the keys. You've got to learn how to build your own door. The game keeps changing. Contracts keep getting trickier, and if you're not paying attention, you'll get played by the same system you worked so hard to be part of. Cam figured that out early and flipped it into an empire. From music to fashion to culture, he kept evolving while staying true to his Harlem roots. That's boss energy right there. So let me ask you this. Do you think Dame Dash should have sat Cam down and gave him the full rundown before stepping into that Roc-A-Fella machine? Or do you think Cam had to experience it firsthand to become the independent powerhouse he is today? Drop your thoughts down in the comments, hit that like button, share this video with your crew, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. I'll catch you in the next one.